This video is for the interest of you 3 litre and 5 litre Jaguar Supercharged owners. This supercharger I've just removed off a 3 litre F-type. The 5 litre is also an Eaton supercharger by the same manufacturer and a very similar style. So I've removed this, I'm about to strip it down, show you all the components and what can be serviced and maintained on them. One of the very common symptoms with these superchargers is a rattle on idle and also when switching the engine off, a bit of a clunk when it comes to a standing stop. And that's because there is a coupler inside here and it basically means there's play on this pulley. And that's the kind of knocking noise. It's meant to be sprung and dampened as standard, but over time they wear and they have the opposite desired effect and they become all clunky and horrible. This one actually isn't that bad. You get much worse than that, where you can rotate it almost 20 millimeters round and it's a right old clunk. But we're going to go ahead and service and rebuild this one anyway. First thing I've done is gone ahead and removed this from the rear of the supercharger. All this plastic gubbins that looks rather complicated is the symposer, and all this does is it's designed to guide some supercharged air intake noise, that sort of typical supercharged zoop zoop noise, into the cabin. Now this can go back on absolutely fine, but I do quite like to remove these and blank it off because the desired effect this gives isn't very noticeable. It's very plasticky and brittle, and if any of these pipes split, well then you can get engine running faults. It takes up quite a lot of room in the engine bay and it makes it much more difficult to remove and refit the supercharger and do any further work on the engine. For example, if this rear coolant pipe ever splits here, I could probably get to it in situ without removing the supercharger, but with the symposer on the back it makes it very difficult to access. So we do a simple blanking plate that goes over here like so, and then you need to blank off this pipe here. This is your brake vacuum line. It's very important that this is blanked off and sealed correctly. You can leave the solenoid unplugged and it won't put on an engine light or anything like that. You can remove all that, simplify your engine, increase reliability, job done. And with this removed, it allows me to access this cover here. I'm going to remove this cover. There's going to be 2 gears behind it and it's immersed in oil. I'm going to change the oil. In fact, I'm not only going to change the oil, I'm going to clean out all inside that gearbox. Now we offer various levels of supercharger maintenance, and I do advise people that we're going to know more on what the supercharger needs once it's removed and stripped to this state, because once it's in this state you can get your hands in there and you can feel the amount of play in the bearings, the up and down play, the longitudinal play, and how it feels when rotated. Now these bearings, you're allowed a tiny bit of play, you don't want too much at the front. The bearings in the rear though, if these shafts have got longitudinal play, then the supercharger is scrap really, because you can't change the bearings in the back. But the good news is they are typically the last thing to wear out. They are the only bearings within the supercharger that are immersed in the gear oil, which is obviously another reason to change the gear oil. So it's very unlikely that you will need a new supercharger, but I have seen it on a couple of occasions where you've got excessive play in these rear bearings, and I'm sorry to say that's the end of the supercharger. But the good news again is we do have some in stock quite often, so you know, here to save the day hopefully. Now this one feels perfectly serviceable. These bearings got a tiny bit of play in it. I'm going to change those anyway. I'm going to change the gear oil, and the bearings in the back, which cannot be changed, that are immersed in the oil, feel just fine. Okay guys, there's the supercharger assembly torn down into left hand manifold and right hand manifold, supercharger snout, actuator, symposer, and the heart of it, the main supercharger itself. This coupler is the component we're talking about that wears and creates that play within the pulley. What can happen quite often, and it's happened in this case, is this worn slash faulty coupler has been rubbing on this shaft, and it creates quite nasty grooves within there. So of course that is going to clash with the new coupler, so we're going to refurbish that shaft. So we're going to go ahead now and basically rebuild the supercharger and the supercharger snout. So, special pulley remover tool to remove the pulley first on the supercharger snout. We are quite regularly doing this in situ as well, supercharger still on the car, as we offer a performance pulley for these 3 litre and 5 litre engines. It gives you a bit more supercharged boost, a bit more power. Make sure that's all nice in the middle. I'm sure in the instructions it probably says not to use a air tool, but we got stuff to do, so I need to get on with it. That lifts up. Hold on tight. One pulley removed. So I've removed the shaft from the supercharger snout. Each end of the shaft there's a bearing. The one on this side is still stuck in the casing I've got to remove, and this one comes out with the shaft. To change this bearing I need to remove this hub, and I'm going to refurbish the shaft anyway. So I've got a box here of things and stuff that I keep aside all for these superchargers. So we've got a test fit pulley, that's for later on, old bearings and bits and bobs, things and stuff, and this homemade tool we made a few years ago, it's done as well, and we can attach that to there and that'll pull off this hub from the shaft. Next, and there we have the gears that synchronise the two rotors together. They're immersed in oil along with the bearings behind it. Those are the ones we can't change. Now it does have a drain and fill point there. Some people choose to undo that, suck the oil out, and then inject some new oil in with a syringe. However, you're not really going to get it all out. Are you going to get the right amount in? And all this, well, I'll try and show you, but it collects kind of graphite-y, you know, swarf over time, so it's a really good idea to clean all of this in here out. not a bad colour in this one. I've seen much worse. They do go more sort of grey brown over time as they wear. That's the most of it out. I'm going to use some cleaner in there to get out the residue. Okay, here's the interesting bit. Oh, I find it interesting anyway. If I can get it off. A little bit more encouragement. There we are. Oh, come on. Look at that. Beautiful. So far, it's all just been nuts and bolts really. It's a little bit long-winded, but perfectly doable. This is where it gets a little bit more technical, a bit more specialist, and you've got to work with some precision to remove the old bearings and press the new ones into the correct tolerances. And here we have all the supercharger assembly disassembled. Let me talk you through it. So we've got the main casing, we've got the big screw rotors, the gearbox casing that holds the oil, the snout, manifolds removed, symposer removed, etc. So we're going to be putting some new fluid in the gear casing. We are changing these bearings here. These are all the old parts. I'm going to change these bearings that locate on the end of these shafts for these new ones here. These two bearings go each end of the supercharger snout shaft that we're refurbishing. Here's our new ones. There's the old worn faulty coupler. We have a choice here. We have the OEM sprung type 1 for the 3 litre, and we also have a solid, can't remember what it's made of, oil filled nylon, I think it is, something like that, but it's classed as a solid upgrade. So then, you know, it will last a lifetime in the car, then it's not going to wear out. This is only available on the 3 litre. The 5 litre ones were recalled because they were given like a resonance noise on the 5 litre supercharger. So on the 5 litre we always fit the OEM sprung type 1. It's not a major problem if your car's previously had a solid coupler in your 5 litre car, but the theory is a resonance noise. Well, what is a resonance? A resonance is a vibration, so that could potentially put premature wear on some of the other bearings and stuff like that. So that's why now we always fit the sprung ones on the 5 litre, and then your choice on the 3 litre. The 3 litre supercharger like this one seems to respond absolutely fine to one of these, which is what we're fitting today. Anyway, moving on, we are also replacing the upper pulley for our Wraptor precision engineered stainless steel performance pulley. Okay, so this is smaller in diameter than the original one, which basically changes the gearing to spin the supercharger faster, which gives more boost and more power. Now that makes a whopping difference on the 5 litre engine. It's quite a lot smaller than the original one, and you can run it with the standard vehicle map and it responds okay. We had a Jaguar XFR 5 litre supercharged with our pulley on the dyno the other week, and it made 24 more horsepower with standard mapping, which is pretty good. You can combine that with a remap though for some extra power again, or we even have a remap that's specifically developed for that modification in mind, creating our Raptor Level 2 tuning package. So there's all sorts you can do, all sorts with a supercharger, maintain it, tune it, increase the reliability, etc. But this one's having the kind of the biggest overhaul that we offer today, so I'm going to reassemble all of that now and then pop it back in the car. This one today is also going to receive a remap, not mandatory for the pulley modification, but it does go hand in hand quite nicely. I will add as well, adding this performance pulley doesn't make as much of a difference on the 3 litre because the 3 litre standard pulley is smaller than the standard 5 litre pulley anyway. Hope that makes sense. So that's only slightly smaller than a 3 litre, but much smaller than a 5 litre, and that pulley fits on both engines, both superchargers. Now in the corner here you may have noticed these. With the supercharger removed, we have access to these rather prone to failure plastic coolant pipes. Now the really old engines like that one, that's a 5 litre I've got in the corner there. You see that? That's metal from factory, 15 years old and absolutely fine. But from around 2012, Jaguar Land Rover decided to change them to plastic. Cheap. And this is the design, and it's prone to failure. It's a two-piece sort of sandwiched together plastic, and it can leak along the seams, but it can also split along here, okay, and they do. So Jaguar have come up with a updated design where it's still plastic, but it's solid, like with no seam. But it's still not going to fix the fact that it's plastic, and it's still not going to fix the fact that they crack around here where they locate into the engine block. So we've got aluminium ones. This is a lifetime fix. I expect this to last the lifetime of the rest of the vehicle, really. Not only that, whilst we're here on this one, we're going to change this little tube as well. Again, the original one is plastic, and that sits behind the water pump. Let me show you. There's the water pump, and with the supercharger removed, you can see that. Now, you don't actually need to remove the supercharger to get to that. You can just pull the water pump out, and it's behind there, and that's what we're going to do on this. But we are changing it for the aluminium one. I've seen these for sale in a few different places. I don't know if they're from the same source or not, but I can say that our aluminium pipes, the holes will be in the right places so they fit well, and this link tube here, it will come with both seals. Typically these kits, they only come with one, which is quite annoying because there's one that end and then there's one that sits this end. You put it on the oil cooler first and then slide it on, so you need two really. So we supply two in our kits. Anyways, time to get all this back together. There's a few hours work ahead of me, and yeah, I'll do another vid when it's all back together. There's the new water pump installed and plastic link tube replaced for aluminium one. Nearly together now. Lots of shiny bits. There's the top metal pipe connected to the lower Y-piece pipe. New water pump, new upper pulley, air intake pipe to go on, a few other pipes, bleed it up, bonnet on, and we're done. And it's all back together. That one with a performance pulley and a remap. I'm sure the customer's going to enjoy that. Not mandatory, optional, but definitely enjoyable. So there we are. The F-Type has now had some maintenance and some uprated parts such as the coupler and the coolant pipes and a bit of extra performance as well. But you know, there's the ability to tailor it to your taste and budget really, if that makes sense. So if you've got a supercharged Jag like that one or a different one, I hope this video gave you some good insight, some good value, and was interesting. Oh, one more thing, if you don't mind, and I don't mean to spam you, this is just a bit of fun for everyone. We are having a raffle. We're giving away some awesome prizes. Top prize is a full exterior wrap. Here's kind of an example. That's a half wrap there, but make your car look cool in your choice of colour. We're also giving away a performance remap and dyno session, and a service using genuine parts. We got lots of tickets available. We sold some, still got some more to go. Hope you join in, interact and have some fun. Summer's coming, let's get the cars out. Thanks for watching. We do have our own YouTube and socials. If you want to follow us and keep up to date and see more Jaguar related content, we are Wraptor Customs. Give that a search. Search for Wraptor Customs or Wraptor Design. And thanks for watching. I'm Dud at Wraptor. Cheers.